Welcome to the Home Business Podcast with Richard Captain Henderson, publisher of Home Business Magazine, and Sherilyn Colleen, managing editor. This how-to show helps you successfully operate your home-based business.
Greetings and welcome to the Home Business Podcast. I'm Richard Captain Henderson, your skipper at Home Business TV.
Hey, I'm Lynn, your co-host.
Let's gear for C and get it away. What do you do after you hit a perfect score on the Scholastic Aptitude Test, SAT?
Shaan Patel was inspired to start a company after mastering a strategy that helped him attain a perfect score on the SAT.
Shaan has launched his successful company, Prep Expert, a prep course for college admissions exams.
Patel also scored a deal with Marc Cuban on an episode of Shark Tank, and since its airing has made $20 million in course and book sales while teaching more than 50,000 students.
Although you might not make it to Shark Tank yourself, the Patel has a fascinating startup story that all home business owners can learn from.
So greetings, Shaan Patel. Welcome to the Home Business Podcast. Say hey.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here, and I'm excited to share a little bit more about my story and some tips that I can share with other home business owners.
So I guess you're cool. You're connecting in from the city of brotherly love, but you run your company from the corporate headquarters in Las Vegas?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So my company is based out of Las Vegas. I'm actually in Philadelphia right now, and it's actually kind of a beautiful day for November. But so Vegas is home. That's where I grew up. That's where the company started. That's where all of our full-time employees still are.
Yeah, I heard, Las Vegas is kind of an entrepreneurial hub, obviously. So that sounds like that'd be a fun place to run a business from.
Yeah, it really has taken off over the past few years, especially when they moved the headquarters of Zappos there. Tony Hsieh, the founder there, has really brought an entrepreneurial community and invested into the downtown of Las Vegas to bring more entrepreneurs, because it's a very business-friendly state. I mean, no state income tax is a huge thing for business. Yeah.
And it's sunny most days of the year.
Exactly.
Well, thanks for connecting in.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to be here.
We are too. So Shaan Patel, let's get to know you better. How long after acing at the SAT did you start to work on your prep business launch?
Yeah, so back when I was in high school in Las Vegas, I raised my SAT score from average to perfect, something that about 0.02% of all students achieve. And that totally changed my life. I got into amazing colleges. I got $500,000 in scholarship offers. I even got to meet the president of the United States. And so, I couldn't believe that this one exam changed my life completely. So I knew as soon as that was happening for me, all these amazing things, is that I wanted to help other students improve their SAT scores and change their scores to change their lives the way that I did. Of course, I didn't know the best way to go about it. So my original idea was to write an SAT prep book. I thought it would be amazing, and that, every book publisher would love it, that there was an SAT prep, the first SAT prep book written by a perfect score student. And of course, reality hit me hard when I tried to pitch this book out when I was in college. And I pitched it to 100 literary agents and publishers, and every single one said, no, you don't have a platform. The SAT prep market is too competitive. And they all said, the book's not going to work. And that's when I decided to take my destiny into my own hands. And I took all those hundreds of pages that I had written for the book, and I said, well, I don't need to wait for a publisher to let me start a prep course. So I decided to turn my book into a prep course. And that's really when the Prep Expert, or this company that does SAT prep courses, was born, because the very first prep course I ever taught took place in Las Vegas, and I taught it personally myself. It was over the course of 6 weeks. And in that 6 weeks, the first 18 students I had in my course, they improved their SAT scores an average of 376 points. And so that's when I knew I was onto something. I had parents knocking down the door for more courses, and I started hiring more instructors.
So it's sort of like that college scandal where you pay someone to take your exam. You're teaching people how to make the exam right. What I really like about your story there is, you're trying to fill a market need, but you went in with a certain medium, that being the traditional book. But you didn't let that get you discouraged when you realized that whole technique, or that whole swim lane, was just too competitive. You just went around it, still meeting the same market need, but going in with a different approach, that being more personal online courses. Then you built it up from there.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is after McGraw-Hill, the world's largest education publisher, saw what I was doing with my courses, they had actually rejected me. They were part of that 100 publishers that had rejected me in the beginning. They came back and said, now we'll give you a book deal.
What
now
a
you
nice to be able to screen their call. Mr. Patel, he'll take your call right now.
Yeah, exactly. And so that book ended up going #1 on Amazon for SAT prep. It sold tens of thousands of copies. And so it just goes to show every entrepreneur or every home business owner out there, like you don't need to necessarily wait for someone to give you permission for your success. You really need to just take it into your own hands and put
there's more than one way to hit a market, or I guess as the old saying goes, skin a cat. But Shawn, Shark Tank was a big leap. What made you think of trying to score a deal on Shark Tank?
Yeah, that was a funny story, is that I was basically just a fan of Shark Tank like everyone else. I was watching Shark Tank a ton back in 2015, and one day it just kind of hit me. I was like, you know what? I have a small business and I would love to get some investment and some exposure through Shark Tank to help scale this business. Because at that time, it was just in-person courses in Las Vegas. And so I thought, if I get some investment, I can go to more cities. We can expand the online platform. We can hire more people to, bring in more digital marketing, et cetera, and really make a robust company and turn this into a national test prep company. So I stood in line with 500 other entrepreneurs to audition in New York for a 1-minute call, pitch. And I was one of the last people in line. I ended up, the producer luckily didn't have his eyes too bloodshot by that point. And he liked my pitch. And within 3 months, I was being flown out to Los Angeles to pitch the Sharks. And I got really lucky because, 50,000 people at that time were applying to Shark Tank, and only about 120 end up airing on the show. So I tell people it's just about as hard to get on Shark Tank as it is to get a perfect SAT score. And so I'm probably the only person that's done both. Yeah.
Wow.
That's cool.
Well, every business would benefit from the steps you took to get ready for Shark Tank. Shawn, how did you prepare your pitch to the Sharks?
And I bet you also kind of must have done something with your visual preparation too. I mean, you're standing up and, going through and rehearsing.
There is so much preparation that goes into pitching on Shark Tank. I mean, they really help you. They assign you some producers, but a lot of it is up to the entrepreneur. And, me having a prep course for the SAT, I did extensive prep for Shark Tank. I mean, I probably spent over 100, 200 hours preparing for that one pitch in front of the Sharks. I wrote down every possible question they could throw at me. I got my presentation. So what I did was I wrote down all these good stories, because my thinking was, I have the most boring company in the world. It's SAT prep courses. So I have to have some interesting entrepreneurial stories, some funny stories to make it good for television, because the last thing I want to do is pitch those Sharks and then not end up airing on television.
It must be scary as all hell, because, you realize you only have a few minutes and then you're just spending hours and hours and hours getting, you worry about choking and, going off the rail. And they're also kind of good at throwing hand grenades in where they hit you with questions that just throw you off balance.
Oh yeah. I mean, my Shark Tank episode got super popular because of how dramatic it was. For those who haven't seen it, I look like I'm going to tank. I look like I'm going downhill, like within minutes. And I felt like that too. Every single shark loved my business, but they hated the fact that I was still in school. So I was still in medical school at the time, and they were like, how are you going to run the business and be a student? And, it was just a lot going on between all of the Sharks. They all shot me down. And it was so funny because I got so many people after reaching out to me after the show aired saying, I was really rooting for you because, I also am a student, or I'm also have a job and I dream of starting this business. And, I think everyone would love to be able to start their business on the side of, if they have a full-time job or if they're a student. And so, I think I was hopefully inspirational to people that it is possible.
Yeah, I mean, you're also definitely trying to juggle something. You're not coming in as the traditional entrepreneurial hack. I mean, you're on a medical school track. But let's talk a little bit about Marc Cuban. How did you get a a whale like that to invest in your startup. And did you, get any other offers from the other sharks?
Yeah, so Marc Cuban ended up investing $250,000 in exchange for 20% equity in the company. And that almost looked like it wasn't going to happen in the show. And even while I was there, the first thing Marc Cuban does when I say I got a perfect score on the SAT and it changed my life is he rolls his eyes and it's kind of like, oh, yeah, sure, sure. So I was like, oh, man, Marc is the one that I wanted. And within the first 5 minutes, he's rolling his eyes. I'm like, okay, this is not going to go well for me. But it was going back to those stories that I had prepared. I had prepared a lot of stories about my work ethic. I prepared stories about how hard my father, worked when I was growing up. He was a pharmacist, owned a motel, owned a gas station, worked at all of those for 16-hour days. And then all of a sudden, Marc Cuban was sharing stories with me about his father and how hard he worked. And so I think he started connecting with me around our work ethic. And, he gave me the ultimate compliment on Shark Tank, which is he wanted to acqui-hire me, which meant he didn't want to just invest in Prep Expert, but he wanted to be a part of other ventures in the future because he didn't think Prep Expert would be my last. And so that was the ultimate compliment, that it seemed like he was investing more in me because of my work ethic and my knowledge rather than just the company, which was—
I think there's a story beyond just like Shark
flattering.
Tank here with entrepreneurs in general. When you're presenting yourself to any potential client, to talk about the bigger picture, get outside of just your business and talk about who you are and your story, and like weave that into your own sales pitches, and like how you worked with Shark Tank could, I think, benefit any business owner.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the art of storytelling is huge, especially when it comes to small business, right? When you're trying to differentiate yourself from other companies, especially some of the larger corporations, is one of the advantages that small businesses and home business can use is their personal story and weaving that into the business, the sales copy, the marketing, et cetera.
Well, Shawn, you are in a competitive market in the test preparation industry. How do you exploit your niche in this market?
Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect segue. So a lot of it, one of the things that I relied heavily on early on when I was entering the SAT prep market was my personal story. I talked about how I went to urban public schools in the worst school district, had an average SAT score, went to a perfect SAT score, and used these techniques. And then after that, though, it's all about your product and service. You have to be able to deliver on those results. Like I said, the first class I had, over 6 weeks, the students improved almost 400 points to their SAT scores, taking them from the 50th percentile to the 90th percentile. And we continue to constantly evolve our strategies, make sure we hire the best instructors who score in the 99th percentile on the SAT and the ACT, who are teaching the courses. We make sure that we have the best online delivery platform. So, I think a lot of it is word of mouth. That's the key for any business. And in order to have positive word of mouth, you have to deliver an amazing product.
Well, you're in a market where it's such a, it's so competitive. There's such a drive for it. Maybe the kids don't understand, but the parents do. And so, you realize that there's going to be a lot of research and a lot of checking into, what you're doing. It's not like just buying, another brand of paper towels at the grocery store. And then if that doesn't work out, get something else. I mean, you got one shot getting ready for the SAT. So I imagine, building up that reputation and building up that word of mouth would be, very important to what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our customer is the parent of the high school student. It is not the high school student. The high school student is our consumer, but we really have to speak to the parent of the high school student, address their concerns, show them our track record, and that's how you grow any business.
Well, in the kind of the e-commerce world, are you primarily in-person training, or is it branching off more to online, web-based instruction, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, when we first started the company, like I said, we were in person primarily, and 95% of our classes took place in person in classrooms. Now with the internet getting better, virtual classrooms getting better, video, everything is now more geared, especially Generation Z, the new kids in high school are so used to learning online. 95% of our classes now take place online. So it's actually the inverse. And so we really consider ourselves an e-learning company now, which wasn't the original company, but you have to adapt as technology.
Kind of like Netflix.
Adapts.
They started off mailing CDs in the mail, and now it's all digital streaming. So
that's a great
one
analogy.
thing leads to another. Let's take a look a little bit about your marketing techniques. What are some of the more effective ways that you advertise Prep Expert?
Yeah, so digital marketing has been such a huge part of acquiring customers over the past few years because everyone is on Facebook, Instagram, Google. So so Facebook and Instagram bring us our greatest return on ad spend because we're able to target specifically parents of high school students, which is amazing. On top of that, we offer a free class open to any parent or student. And what this lets people do is it lets them see me teach our strategies and how effective they really are for absolutely no cost. And that's a great lead generator. So my advice to any business, whether you're an in-person business or a service business, is to offer, if you can, and it doesn't cost you a lot, is to offer something for free to just get people in the door and bring those leads in. It could be even a free ebook or a free webinar, or whatever it may be. We offer a free class, but that really helps you gain leads and helps you to those leads showcase your authority and capture their attention for that hour or whatever you're giving away. Because people's attention spans these days are so short. So to be able to get an hour of somebody's time or half an hour of time to show them why you have a great product or why you have a great service is so precious.
Yeah, I want to pull out also what you said earlier about targeting and homing in on a niche and how how important that is on. I mean, yours was a pretty easy niche to figure out, but that seems to be a mystery for so many entrepreneurs. Something they sometimes struggle with each day. How do I reach my target audience? And it's just there's no magic solution. It just gets more complicated as you get more social media platforms out there, and how do you make that group connection?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of it is just testing. What's interesting, for example, I was going over with my marketing company yesterday on our Facebook ads. You would think that mothers would be more apt to buy their child SAT course.
What do they call that? The tiger mom?
Yeah, the tiger moms, right? You would think that, but it turns out that men are actually 7 times more likely to purchase the SAT course for their child than the moms. So the dads out there, it's very surprising, right? So you have to look at the data and make sure that you're spending on the right target demographics, because we should be spending 7 times more on the dads than the moms. And so you have to take a look and really analyze that data and sit down with the marketing team, sit down and look at the analytics as a business owner.
Yeah, that's such an important point you're making. You have to trust the data. You have to gather it, but then not be welded to a solution. If it's telling you something else, you got to adapt what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm sure everyone out there listening would think, yeah, moms would make more sense than dads, but dads really care about their kids' SAT courses, apparently. Yeah.
So Shawn, what are your future plans for expanding Prep Expert?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the big divisions of the company that we launched in the past year is our college admissions consulting division. So this is a division of the company that's the perfect supplement to SAT and ACT prep courses. So what we do is we offer college essay editing, college application advice, selection of classes, and really provide a personal experience to help students get into the college of their dreams. Now, this is different than the cheating that occurred with the college admissions scandal. I just want to make that totally clear. We do it.
So you don't have any athletic directors on your staff over
there? No one's on my payroll from USC. Nothing like that. Yeah.
Well, so, that's a really good point too. I mean, you're diversifying into a related business that you already have that builds on the core, and that's your highest way to ensure success in diversifying. You connect it to something you're already doing.
Yeah, exactly. We realize that we have a large following of parents and high school students that need this service. And then to add, basically, we're able to now cross-sell in another space that's very similar. And we find that this is actually more effective than starting another course, for example, in the LSAT, because then we have to go out and get a whole new demographic, whereas we have 100,000 email list of leads of parents already. So it's much easier to expand in a product line, I should say, that is complementary to our existing one, rather than open up a new product line, which is something we're considering. But in the near future, I love the prospects of focusing really on the high school demographic and the parents of those high school students.
Well, Shawn Patel, this has been a great discussion on leveraging your Shark Tank moment. Do you have any final points you would like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for any home business owner out there, I really just want to stress the importance of producing value. What I mean by that is, a lot of people look at me and they say, "Oh, wow, it's really great that you started this course and you got this Marc Cuban deal." But what they don't look at and what they don't know about is that I put in my 10,000 hours of effort and energy to write all of this content, to create these books, to write this curriculum, to put together the website, the course. And all of that is why I ended up getting a book deal, why I ended up getting on Shark Tank. I mentioned the prep that I did for Shark Tank, even why I got the Marc Cuban deal. All of that is because I spent those early morning hours and those long days, 12 to 16 hours sometimes, in order to produce massive amounts of value, because that's what your competitors don't want to do. So if you put in that extra energy and effort to produce value and do those high value tasks, I'm not just responding to emails all day. I don't consider that high value. I consider producing value in a product or service high value. And so that's what I really want to stress is that's what can lead to success in any business.
Hard work. There is no shortcut.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Shawn Patel, thank you for being such a wonderful guest on the Home Business Podcast.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. This has been fun.
It has. To learn more about Shawn Patel and his company, visit prepexpert.com or our podcast website for more information on guests.
Thanks for joining us in this episode of the Home Business Podcast. Share your feedback with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at our website, homebusinessmag.com.
Visit the website for information on advertising, subscribe to our newsletter. Please visit our sponsors for more information. Visit homebusinessmag.com or the expo at homebusinessexpo.com.
I'm Richard Henderson saying anchors away.
I'll talk with you soon. Until then,
make it a great home-based biz day.